welcome to the Building and Growing podcast. We're delighted to have Eva Dobrzanska with us today. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you, Lucas. Pleased to be here.
You're most welcome. It's a lovely sunny day in London.
Oh my God, yeah, I can definitely feel the heat wave.
That's it. I mean, I think everybody at London Tech Week melted.
Yeah. I've heard that the first day was absolutely subtropical.
Yeah, that's it. It was hot. Apparently, it was also full of grads asking for jobs. So all the sponsors were like, "Where are our leads?" But yeah. So look, Eva joins us as the investment and deal flow manager at Block Dojo. But you've had a really exciting career. You've done a lot of interesting things that we're going to cover.
Yeah, for sure. So, with the current job with Block Dojo. So we are an early stage incubator for startups, mostly in the blockchain and Web3 space. However, that expands across to other sectors as well. So if we've got a climate tech startup or one operating across supply chain or logistics and they use blockchain technology, then they, provided that they are in the stage that we are looking to help, they would be eligible as well. It's probably those applications of blockchain across different industries and sector is what I'm excited about and what I'm keen to work with.
Fantastic. And look, tell us about yourself and your background and sort of how you ended up in this position.
Yeah, sure. Going back to uni years, I studied international business.
Yes.
I liked it so much that I did it for both my bachelor's and my master's.
Nice.
As part of the master's degree, I was able to move to Sydney, and that is really where I found myself in the, entrepreneurial hotbed of startup founders. And I was then working for an R&D tax credits consultancy and then also for a platform connecting founders and investors. So that was really cool because I got to see kind of like two ends of the spectrum with the non-dilutive funding and the dilutive side of funding, investors, VCs, and so on. Then I soon realized that the world of capital raising is more exciting than the world of tax. So I decided to move to the capital raising space more fully.
Yes.
Around that time, I started posting content on LinkedIn and I started my own small advisory where I was just working with founders on one-on-one basis to help them create, design, and pitch their pitch decks.
Excellent.
And then, assist with anything related to capital raising strategy. I was never doing introductions, though.
Yes.
I always wanted to be like a tangible product for which, the founder would pay up front and they would know exactly what they're getting. And then I would deliver the deliverables and, off you go. You're ready to raise and you are capable of raising on your own.
Fantastic. And look, coming back to the content part, you're an absolute content machine. How long? No worries. And I think in the London industry, you're very widely recognized for it. How long have you been posting for?
I want to say probably coming up to like 3 years now.
Wow, yeah.
But it really started snowballing in the last year or so.
Yes.
And I've listened to one podcast where they said the same thing about podcasts actually.
Yeah,
like you keep making them and there's a little traction, but then at one point the switch will flip and you just snowball.
Was that 20 BC?
Maybe.
Yeah, where 95% of downloads were in the last 12 months.
I think that was the one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's incredible how that happens.
Yeah, and I think with content as well. So if I were to pinpoint, like where on my timeline this growth has happened, I think it would be like in the last 9 months or so.
Nice. Fantastic. And, just diving into, let's say, the how, because often when I have conversations with people about personal brand and content, they're like, I want to do it, but I don't know where to start. How can you talk us through how you started doing it? What was the first step?
So I think for me, it was quite easy because with the two startups that I worked for in Sydney, they were super, super small. So I joined as employee number 1.
Wow.
And I think at the time of me joining, they were just incorporated for about like 3 months.
Okay. Yeah,
so I was sort of like
early.
jack of all trades, helping them with absolutely everything. And that also included, marketing and outreach and so on.
Yes.
So the first early days of my posting, I would be posting content related to, what we do as startups. And then I expanded it more slightly to cover the educational piece, the informational.
Yes.
And then as I kept learning about, the VC industry, the capital raising world and startups in general, I would just started posting it more and more and more. And I'm still learning myself, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear something interesting or, something that sticks with me, I'll take a note of it. I think my notes app has 700 notes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Far out.
Yeah. So, and just put it out there. So I guess you could say at first it started sort of almost like a personal notebook kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then, people started reaching out to me oh, can you help us raise? Can you help us with the pitch deck?
Yes.
And that was when I was well, I can, but I should probably start charging you for it.
Yeah, of course.
That's when I started my own business.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And more recently, you've partnered with Daniel Sorko to start producing some videos. Tell us about that series.
Yeah. So, it was actually a funny story because me and Dan just met up for, catch-ups and so on. And we were talking about, the first topic was basically red flags in business and in investors, term sheets and so on. And we were just, talking about everything that we've seen, that we've experienced. And, at the end of it, we were this is really useful probably to other founders as well. We should record it and we should put it out there. So we've started with that bit of content and we want to record more.
Yes.
Plenty more to be said. It's just, time permitting.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you gotta commit to it and prepare it and then execute and then distribute and sort of for that one video that goes up on LinkedIn, there's all these little steps in the background that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
fantastic. You mentioned that when you moved to Sydney, you really sort of fell in love with the startup world, and then you got into capital raising. What drives that sort of passion?
I think the ability to help founders at the early stage and then see where they take the business.
Yeah.
That is such a huge driver because if you can also see that you have somehow contributed to their success and to their growth, then that's amazing. And for me, it's always the second factor is, the learning opportunity. I always like to, learn about new things and discover new things and understand how they really work. And I think with startups, that is a space where you can achieve that.
Yes.
Also with a good social. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, fantastic.
Yeah.
And you've been working and advising those startups, but you've done a lot of work with the investor side as well. And you've worked with a number of different investors, from sort of angels to VCs, and please feel free to add any others that I've missed. But what do you see those investors value the most in startups?
Yeah, so with me being, with me operating across the early stage, I'll focus on the early stage. And that is when it all comes to the strength of the team.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've seen, but it was literally in the news yesterday or today that Lightspeed Venture Partners invested in this AI startup that is less than 4 weeks old.
To compete with ChatGPT.
Yes, and they've raised...
Or OpenAI, right?
Yeah, and it was a seed raise of more than 300 million. Which is absolutely insane for a startup that has been incorporated for less than a month.
Yeah.
The reason they invested is, because of the 3 co-founders. So there's alumni from, I think, Google and Meta and so on.
Okay, yeah.
So, team credentials. So, and with Block Dojo, I'm the one reviewing the applications coming into our incubator. So when I'm reviewing them, a lot of the times these are the pre-traction, pre-launch startups that don't have that many milestones in their journey yet. So that's when you head over to the team slide, you look at the founder's background, you go on their LinkedIn profiles, you see what's there, you see what experience they've got.
Yeah.
So that is what is definitely most important to investors at the early stage. Another thing that I would say is the size of the market.
Yes.
So I've heard this somewhere that obviously for a VC model to achieve the desired rate of return, where at the early stages, VCs can expect as much as even a 50x or even 100x return.
Yes. Yeah.
So for that to happen, the like total addressable market must be large enough to actually be able to substantiate that returns. So in the pitch decks that I'm reviewing, I always like to see that the slide with TAM, SAM, SOM done very correctly, because not only it tells me the scalability potential, but also it shows the founder's understanding of who their market is.
Yes.
So that's those like really two vital components of what investors want at the early stages.
Indeed, yeah. Fantastic. And I think, one of the key things that I see with founders is just when they can really understand the problem and articulate that well, because otherwise, it's just, all right, give me some money for this idea.
Yeah.
But what's the idea doing?
Yeah. Which usually comes from personal experience as well. So like if they've experienced the problem themselves, if they're solving for a pain point that was felt by them, or like the niche of people where they are with, then that always works well. Yeah,
indeed. I mean, I jumped on a call earlier today, with a startup, and they were just solving pain points in such an incredible manner that it was like it was just so refreshing, Nice. Whereas other ones, it's kind of just trying to put a circular pole into a square box, and it doesn't work. Yeah. Excellent.
Nice.
And in terms of the incubation program at Block Dojo, tell us a little bit more about that and how it works.
Yes. So it is face-to-face, an intensive program in our offices in Stratford. So we get each of the participating founders to actually come in, every day to our office. It's very, very hands-on, very interactive. So we bring in experts and mentors and previous startup founders and investors on a weekly basis for those startups to interact with. There's workshops, there's classes. The startups get access to our program manager, and each week they've got like a recap with him and addressing any of the current struggles that they're facing. And then each week follows a different theme. So we start with the problem validation, and then market testing, and then developing the MVP, financials, pitch decks, mentor magic. And then it all goes towards the final week, which is our investor week.
Okay.
That's when we have an investor dinner and a showcase. So that's when our cohort actually gets to pitch for their first pre-seed checks.
Wow.
So very, very intensive. And what we look for is founders with idea stage, pre-MVP and early MVP.
Yes.
Is sort of like our sweet spot. Given what I said earlier, what we do in the program, we validate the idea, develop the MVP. In the current cohort, we've got 8 startups, if I'm not mistaken, and we are now almost halfway through the program.
Yes.
So mid-July, they will be pitching for their investment.
Fantastic.
We've already started some investor conversations. I've had one of the VC funds actually requesting an introduction to one of the startups from the cohort as well.
Nice.
And we are now accepting applications for the next cohort, which will start in September.
Excellent. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. And so how do founders or potential founders apply? Is there any cost? What's the process?
Yeah, so the link to apply can be found on my profile, on the top of my LinkedIn profile.
Yep.
And there's no cost to apply. So all that they would need to do is to fill in the fields in our screening form, which is quite simple. It's asking about the team experience, it's asking about the target market that they're addressing, couple of other questions about the business idea.
Yes.
And then they need to upload the pitch deck. So that's that one requirement. If they don't have a pitch deck, it can be, like an easier format presentation of what their idea is about. But, there needs to be something for us to go off at.
Yeah.
Then after the first initial screening, they would jump on a one-on-one interview call with myself. And if there's a green tick from me, then they would get progress to the investment committee stage, where they get to pitch to our, team that constitutes the investment committee. And then if it's a yes from all of us, then we can offer them a place on the cohort.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's excellent. Yeah. Well, look, we look forward to hearing how it goes at the pitch evening in July, and seeing, what seeds are planted, in the startup world after that.
Yeah. And I think, like we've had like so many applications coming in already for the next cohort. And I like what I'm seeing. There's a lot of sustainability models around carbon tracking, carbon emissions. There's a lot happening in the DeFi space as well.
Yes.
People wanting to decentralize and democratize access to finance, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of exciting things happening. And obviously, next to AI and fintech, blockchain is the first sector that comes to the forefront of the investment trends in the UK currently.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And, you touch upon the fact that you've got your own consultancy too. Yeah. You mentioned that, let's say, reviewing a pitch deck is one of the deliverables. But what other sort of services and support do you provide to startups?
So currently inactive because I'm focusing full time on Block Dojo. However, what I used to do is that surrounding the element of creating a pitch deck for the founder, I would also provide, the advisory element on capital raising strategies. Pretty much everything that I would be, like offering in like consulting sessions, I'm just putting it now into LinkedIn content.
Yes, fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm thinking of releasing either a course or something and in due course, but need some time for it.
Yeah, excellent. And I guess a quick one in terms of like LinkedIn, what was, your best performing piece of content?
Oh, okay. So that was the 35 investor lists I've posted. I think that was about like a month ago or 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So that went a little crazy. I think there was like 1.8 million impressions on this one.
Wow, yeah, that's nuts. Yeah.
And like 5,000 likes, and I've had like 600 incoming messages, whether like in mails and so on. So that was overwhelming and very positive. Yeah. And I think it was only last week that I finally managed to get through all of my connection requests and messages and everything. So I'm up to speed, which feels great.
And what was the list about?
So it was literally all the investor lists that I found online.
Yes.
Just linked.
Yeah.
And, they're all free. They're all accessible online. So I think the winning formula was basically to, provide a single source of collated resources all in one place. Because it took some time to like find all of them and research them and so on. And kind of like qualify them.
Yes.
Is this good quality list? Do I want to include it in a post and so on? And everyone is looking to raise capital. People found use in it, started resharing, and then one thing led to another.
That's it. Yeah, indeed. Well, I'll be sure to check it out. I mean, it must have popped up for me as an impression, but and maybe I liked it, but I look forward to having a look at it.
Nice. Yeah.
Excellent. And so, Eva, you've worked with many different startups, across different industries. What would your key takeaways be to founders and operators? And feel free to sort of break it down to be founder specific or operator specific. It can be whatever you think is best.
So I think specifically on the topic of capital raising, one of the main pieces of advice that I would have to founders is to start raising sooner than they think they need to raise.
Yeah.
Because if you are already approaching the time that you're going to run out of money, you're too late.
Yeah.
You're already too late. I think the average right now is that it takes between 6 to 8 months to raise your raise.
Yeah.
So I would say start as early as you can, and there's no such thing as too early to start having conversations.
Yeah.
One of the VCs that I spoke with recently, I think just yesterday or the other day, she said to me that, oh yes, please do introduce me to startups at a pre-seed level. We invest at seed, but we actually want to get to know them earlier. So that we can, follow their growth, see what they're doing. And I think what many VCs are trying to achieve is that snapshot where they can get to know the startup and see their pitch deck. And then let's say touch base 6 months later and see a pitch deck then.
Yes.
Because that really paints a story of like what they actually did in the 6 months. And if there is tangible growth shown in there, let's say in the number of users or, like in revenues and so on, then that VC gets a good understanding of what sort of returns they can expect.
Indeed.
And, the VC model inherently is about making money for the fund. So the fund needs to return, like its investment, and hence why, that's what the startups need to be able to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good takeaway because, it also can prevent stress on the founder's side where they're like, we're going to run out of runway.
Yeah. And another piece of advice would be that after every investor meeting, if you can, always ask, is there anyone else in your network you reckon I should speak to?
Yeah.
Because if they can introduce you to another investor, that is perfect. And you're not leaving that meeting kind of like hanging on a deadbeat.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's a fantastic takeaway for founders. How about one for operators?
One for operators. So I would say, one of the workshops that we're actually running at Block Dojo is about building a community. And that would be one of the biggest takeaways for the operators. If you can build a community around your product, make your offering product led in that way, then that is fantastic, because that's where your biggest growth can happen. There's a difference between a community and a following. And like with community, you get users who engage, and at the earliest of stages, where you're just launching your platform, an example would be if you can get your close mates in a WhatsApp group chat, like let's say even just 10 people who will get access to your platform, bounce some ideas and exchange feedback. That can be invaluable at the early stages. And on the topic of feedback, I would also say make giving user feedback as easy as possible.
Indeed.
So the forms need to be somewhere on the website where you can easily find them. They need to be easy and fast to fill in.
Yes.
And that way you incentivize people actually giving you feedback.
Yeah.
If there are any other like benefits and incentives that you can give them in exchange for feedback, even better. And that is crucial at the earliest of stages, because you could be building the best product on earth. And so what if no one wants to buy it? Indeed.
That's it. Yeah. And you need to see that data because if it doesn't solve a problem, it's not going to make money. So
one of the things that I always ask each and every one of the applicants in the applications for our incubator program is, what market research have you done to date? And if they've gone out and spoke to their target market, to real people about the problem they're experiencing, that's a huge plus.
Yes.
And it really shows that, okay, this is a founder who knows that their business will be catering to the needs of other people. So he's speaking to them, learning about their pain points and listening.
Yes. Indeed. And look, any other sort of final takeaways that you'd give to the audience?
I'm trying to think. I think just in general on the topic of networking, your network is your net worth.
Yes.
So it's super, super important to put yourself out there, speak to people, attend networking events. And a lot of the times, on networking events, and conferences, London Tech Week happening. They can get a little bit hectic, and, like you're speaking to a lot of people and maybe not necessarily anything would follow from that. But then you'll meet that one person who will be, oh my God, that's an amazing connection. That's what I was looking for.
That's it.
And that's sort of like where the magic happens. Or again, same advice. If you are meeting someone on a networking event and you can't really find like an overlap or like a path to collaborate, you ask them, is there someone in your network I should speak to?
Yes.
Is there someone in your network that my product could be like interesting to? Because what's this, the theory of like 6 degrees of separation, is it?
Yeah, that's it. And in London, it's like 2 or 3.
Oh my God, 100%. So, the ecosystem is, so tightly knit in here. And another cool thing that I've heard recently is like someone said, it takes a village to raise a startup. So, you can get connected to, like through a person at a networking event to an advisor and then to an accelerator and to a VC. And, that's how it happens.
That's it. Yeah. And I mean, London is a great city, but, you've really got to sort of be prepared to have that, all guns blazing approach, to be going to the events, to be meeting people, because that's the way.
A lot.
It does. Yeah, it takes a lot. It's super rewarding. And the other thing that I find is that, the longer you stay, the harder it is to get away.
Really? Oh my God, is that what awaits me?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look, I mean, I left London, kind of briefly, while I was in Istanbul.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was leaving, I was like, far out. Like, I'm not just leaving a city, I'm leaving like all these sort of seeds that I've planted over the years.
You are right.
Yeah.
Because I was considering, because obviously previously I lived in Sydney and so on, and I was considering like, okay, maybe I'll do a couple of years here and then I'll move. But now I'm thinking, I've built such an ecosystem around myself personally and here in London.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't think if I would be able to recreate it someplace else.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. All the effort that you've put in. Yes. Imagine sort of starting from scratch.
It would be different.
It's hard, but no. Look, I think that there've been some really like key sort of takeaways today. Like the first one is, don't be afraid to just start and share learnings and build out content. Networking is key, because you never know where it's going to lead to. Yes. And it's really important just to ask the question, do you know anyone else that might be interested? It's a great way even for founders, as you said, just to finish the conversation. And then, the final sort of key takeaway for founders just being that, be prepared to fundraise earlier than you need it, and be able to demonstrate that story and that traction while you might speak to a VC once a month or something, or send them a message and just say, look, this is how our pipeline has changed over the past 4 weeks. Let them hear that narrative.
Yeah, which I think might be as well just becoming a standard now for how you get to that point where a VC will take a meeting with you and then they will consider you for an investment, because we are now in definitely the slower years right now of the investment ecosystem. So like a lot of investors prefer to stay on the sidelines and follow the company for longer. Which is why it's taking longer to raise.
Yes. For sure. That's it. Excellent. Well, look, Eva, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you here, and looking forward to seeing how you and Block Dojo progress.
Amazing. Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you.